Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're digging into Karl Marx's theory of alienation. It's from the 19th century, but we're looking at how it still echoes today, especially in education, based on the research you sent over.
Yeah, it's really striking. Marx took alienation, which, had been more of a philosophical idea like Feuerbach talking about religious projection,
Right.
and he grounded it. So it's a material condition, something embedded in our actual social and economic systems.
So less about ideas, more about lived reality.
Exactly. He described it as this problematic separation, a split between yourself and something else, your work, your nature, other people that should, properly belong together.
And this separation, it causes friction.
It conflicts with our sort of basic human harmony, our nature. And for Marx, this wasn't just, a bad feeling someone might have. It was an objective structure of capitalism.
An objective structure. Okay, so how did he break that down? Where did he see these separations happening most clearly?
He pinpointed four main ways this alienation shows up in capitalist work. First, there's alienation from the product of your labor.
Meaning the thing you actually create.
Yeah. You make something, but it's immediately lost to you. It becomes this alien object, something separate that can even dominate your life. The more you produce, the less it feels like yours.
Like building cars you'll never own, or just making one tiny part over and over.
Precisely. And that leads to the second kind, alienation from the activity of labor itself. The work isn't voluntary or creative.
It's force.
It feels external, forced, often monotonous, repetitive. You become, in his words, an appendage of the machine. Work is just a means to survive, not a form of self-expression.
Which must then affect how you feel about yourself, right? That sounds like his third dimension.
Absolutely. Alienation from our species' essence, our fundamental human nature as conscious, creative, social beings.
So work actively suppresses that creativity.
It does. It frustrates our potential for all-round human development. It leads to a kind of loss of self, feeling dehumanized, because your essential human capacities aren't being expressed or developed.
Okay, so you're cut off from your product, your work activity, even your own human nature. Where does that leave your relationships with other people?
That's the fourth dimension. Alienation from others. Community bonds weaken. Competition takes over.
The cash nexus you mentioned earlier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Relationships become transactional. You start seeing others primarily as competitors or maybe just useful objects rather than fellow humans. It fosters social and political estrangement.
Wow. So these four dimensions, they really paint a picture. And Marx saw the root cause as capitalism itself.
Yes, fundamentally. He argued alienation is an inherent objective structure of the system, driven by things like the division of labor and workers being separated from owning the means of production.
So for him, you couldn't truly fix alienation within that system.
That was his argument. Real resolution required changing the system itself.
It's fascinating how these ideas, born from the Industrial Revolution, still resonate. Let's pivot to education. Is education just neutral ground here?
Not according to these analyses. Education plays a really complex dual role. It can unfortunately reproduce these alienating conditions.
How so? Like for students?
Well, think about student alienation. From the product, maybe grades, or knowledge that feels disconnected from life, something external that defines your worth.
Or alienation from the activity of learning itself. Feeling you lack control, doing monotonous tasks, just chasing external rewards.
Exactly. It can stifle creativity, lead to self-estrangement. And alienation from others, too, intense competition for grades, can create isolation instead of collaboration.
And teachers aren't immune, I imagine. Lack of autonomy, standardized tests dictating the curriculum, burnout.
Definitely. And then there's the concept of the hidden curriculum, the unspoken lessons.
What does that teach?
Things like subordination, following rules without question, dealing with fragmented knowledge skills that arguably prepare students for roles within an alienated workforce. It normalizes it.
So Marx's ideas really set the stage. Did later thinkers build on this specifically for education?
Oh, absolutely. You have someone like John Dewey with progressive education. He shared critiques of capitalism's negative effects.
Yeah.
Well, Marxists would say Dewey tried to reform within the system, ultimately still preparing students for alienated labor rather than targeting capitalism as the root problem.
Okay. And Paulo Freire, critical pedagogy sounds relevant.
Hugely. Freire slammed the banking model teachers just depositing info into passive students. He pushed for problem-posing education, dialogue, co-learning.
To build critical awareness.
Exactly. Conscientization. helping people understand their reality critically so they can act to change it.
There was also the correspondence principle from Bowles and Gintis.
Right. They argued school structures, hierarchy, external rewards, fragmented subjects directly mirror or correspond to the capitalist workplace. They prepare you for your slot.
So, given all this, how do we move towards overcoming alienation in education based on these perspectives?
A key strategy is fostering critical awareness in both students and teachers, empowering them to question inequalities.
And changing what and how we teach.
Definitely. Reimagining curriculum for relevance, hands-on work, student choice, maybe less is more for deeper understanding. Marx actually advocated integrating mental, physical, and technical education connected to real production.
What about relationships?
Building genuine supportive communities in schools is crucial to counter that isolation and competition.
But ultimately, it sounds like educational changes alone aren't enough.
That's the core argument. Full de-alienation requires broader societal change, moving toward collective control, what Marx called human emancipation. Education is seen as a vital front in that struggle, a crucial battleground.
So Marx's theory, while old, gives us a powerful lens to examine modern feelings of disconnection, even in schools. Education can replicate alienation.
But it also holds the potential, through critical consciousness and agency, to be a force for liberation.
Which leaves us with a thought for you, our listener. How much of what feels normal in your work or learning life might actually be a symptom of this deeper systemic alienation? And what does it really mean to strive for human flourishing in a world often geared towards profit?